All right, welcome back to another episode of Lionheart Radio with your host, Rick Alexander. Today I'm speaking with Jenna Bekker. She's a former Division I collegiate swimmer. She actually qualified for the South African Olympic Trials. She's a certified strength and conditioning specialist. And most notably, the reason we're talking to her today is that she's the founder of a program called Swimdurance. And essentially what Swimdurance does is that they program swim workouts for CrossFitters and triathletes and other multi-sport athletes, it seems. Did I miss anything there, Jenna?
Yeah, general fitness, anyone looking for a swim program.
Okay. Yeah, and I'll tell you, like, if you're looking for Jenna Bekker on Skype, the only person with a close Skype handle is Jenna Jameson, and that would have been a much different interview.
Oh, man, yeah.
I, almost clicked on it. I was like, oh, here we go.
Wrong person.
Yeah. So I was thinking from the beginning, if we could, take us back to, your, what school did you swim for?
Washington State University, up in the state of Washington.
That's right. If you could, take us back. I know so many people listening to this, really, the United States just does not pay that much attention to swimming until it's, time for the Olympics. And then we're, the biggest swim fans you've ever heard of. And every time when the Olympics come around, we always hear these rumors about, the crazy amount of calories that people burn and, what they eat and stuff like that. If you could you bring us back to when you're peak season, peak training for this? What did your workouts look like? And then what did you eat? How did you maintain all of that?
Yeah, definitely something that a lot of people don't realize or know about. But the typical swimmer that's swimming at the college level has been swimming their whole life. So, started at a young age, and then even starting double days in the pool in training, probably as young as elementary school. I remember being in elementary school, going to swim practice before school and then back again in the afternoon, after juggling some other sports in there too. So, and then that never really ends, you train six days a week, and then that continues through high school, and then if you want to continue into college. So, a lot of volume. We eat a lot. We ate a lot. I don't anymore. But thinking about yardage in a typical swim session, sometimes we'd get up to, when I was swimming back in South Africa still, when I was still in high school, I remember one workout being 10K, a 10K swim, which took us 3 hours. 3 hours of just swimming back and forth. So yeah, you're just going. So burning a lot of calories and then trying to fuel yourself for the next session.
6 miles in one workout.
Yeah.
God, I feel like I would get bored.
Well, you could, I don't know, isn't it the same? I can't say it's really the same for running, because at least you have something else to look at besides the line on the bottom of the pool, right? Right.
Well, that's true, though. A lot of people do give me that same response to running really long distances, it seems like. Is 6 miles, is that the longest you've done? Have you done some open water stuff at all?
No, I have to say that's probably the longest I've done in a session.
Okay.
So maybe there's 2 sessions in the day that total to more than that. But in a session, that's the longest one I can remember.
So I don't get to speak to a lot of people that are really brought it somewhere with swimming. So I kind of want to geek out on the sport a little bit. But
yeah.
When you, at what point did the herd start thinning out and body types start kind of looking the same? Where did it really start becoming, genetics with work ethic instead of just work ethic? Do you think somebody with any frame could work their way up through college, or did it kind of stop at high school and then you had to kind of be suited for the sport?
Man, to be honest, I think any frame. I had girls on my team at college that were all sorts of sizes. Okay, I think maybe one can be competitive at their shape and genetic, but at some point going to the Olympics maybe, or taking it to that real professional level, I think definitely if you look at those athletes, they all tend to be really tall and lean and, slender. So
big wingspan.
Yeah, long wingspan. Everyone knows swimmers for their shoulders, right? Those broad shoulders. and then the narrow hips. I've always been on the more muscular side of swimming, which used to be thought would be good for sprinters, right? But I think actually now over time, that's not the case anymore. I mean, I have some swimmers on the team that I coach now, strength and conditioning, and all my fast sprinters are just powerful and lean, you know. So I think up to a certain point, anyone could be a swimmer to some extent, you know.
Yeah, sure. And the body type thing is always interesting to me because for a while it seemed like when we talk CrossFit, it's like they're really challenging. Like, okay, you can be an endurance athlete, but you can be pretty bulky and pretty strong. But now you look at that and it's like, well, even CrossFitters now are starting to, they kind of have a shape now, right? Now it's like that 5'9", 5'10", 185-pound guy on the men's side at least. It seems like there's almost a shape for that now too at the elite level.
Yeah, and you know, CrossFit, you know, typically shorter people, everyone likes to say. So every time you see a taller athlete at the CrossFit Games, then everyone's eyes are on them, you know, how they're going to do. So, yeah, it's interesting. And even I went to regionals in the Central East a couple weeks back, and all the guys pretty much looked the same, you know, the same build. And then the women, you kind of see where you do see the differences. You kind of see the difference in performance too, I hate to say. So, you know, but they're all dialed in nutrition and, you know, all those things too. So,
yeah. Well, when you start talking about for time too, it's like, well, now your lever really comes into play, right? How long that lever is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. And so one of the things I really like about the pool, in the military, we call the pool like the great equalizer, right? Because I'm not sure how familiar you are with my background or whatever, but, you know I talked to you on George's podcast, George Briones of Softly. We both kind of come from that military special forces background. And it's wild because you can see these guys that, you know, I remember getting there and I'm 160 pounds at the time, like soaking wet, just a little 19-year-old kid. And I'm looking around at all these jacked guys and I'm like, I am way out of my league. And as soon as we started treading water, it was like people were quitting all around me. It was crazy. The water will make, it seems like, you know, it'll make a hero human really, really fast. And I think that's something we saw with Rich Froning at the beginning of his career. Could you give us like a little bit of insight so the audience listening right now, they probably don't even know your background of working with Rich and working with CrossFit Mayhem. So could you give us a little insight on what that was like?
Yeah, definitely. So when I graduated at Washington State, kind of finished up there, and then I moved over to Tennessee Tech for my master's, and I had a graduate assistantship in strength conditioning. So that was awesome. It ended up taking me to the hub, really, of CrossFit, and I was just getting into it after finishing up swimming.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so I kind of needed something competitive, and I jumped right into that, and then ended up at the best place to start, I guess.
Yeah.
But I don't know, anyone who really knows Rich's background, he used to coach at Tennessee Tech as well in the strength and conditioning department. So he had a few friends, and then Matt Hewitt, who's actually on the Mayhem Freedom team, he was the assistant there when I started as a GA. He's actually just taken over the head position there, which is awesome. So he was the one who introduced me to Rich when he found out I had a swimming background. And this was January of 2014. So this was his last year going into individual competition.
Okay.
Yeah, so pretty much right away I started getting with these guys in the pool, and in return I got to, you know, work out with them at Mayhem and eventually start to coach there. But yeah, it started out pretty simple. We started out just with basic swimming drills, breathing drills, you know, learning how to kick. And then he just got better at it, just like anything else. You know, he attacks his weakness and just improved. And then he actually did pretty well in that swim event that year for his last win.
Yeah, I remember that was kind of a little bit of talk at the games, is that like, okay, he like shored up that weakness somehow.
Yeah, it was awesome. I remember standing on the sideline on the, it was down in California still, and I was out on that, like, that little
Pier.
pier, yes, and I was so nervous. I was probably more nervous than he was, I mean, and I think that's pretty typical for coaches when they have athletes who are competing. And in that moment, I felt like his coach, and, I'd hoped that I had helped him enough to, for that event, to be prepared for that. And I think he ended up coming in eighth after that event. So I was very relieved after that event.
Do you find that when you're talking with the CrossFit community and you're starting to work with them in the pool, are they at a disadvantage because of muscle density?
I'm coming to realize, and also like experience myself, that it definitely makes a difference in the water.
Yes.
I when I get in there now, I definitely feel a little more solid in the pool.
Sure.
Versus, more buoyant. But I mean, an athlete's an athlete, so you can figure it out, and you can make it work to some extent. I mean, and there's also some point where you can help someone so much, and then it's really, you work with what you have, and that's with stroke technique. And I didn't try and mess with all of that too much. I tried to just improve on, what they had, and make that more efficient for them. So just finding the efficiency in the water so they could move further and faster while saving more energy, and that really just came from swimming more.
Sure. So I think that's like one of the really cool things about what you're doing right now. It seems like you're so well positioned to do this Swimdurance thing, because not only do you have the swim background at a very, very high level, higher than almost everybody, but you have the strength and conditioning and the CrossFit side. So, I've done, in California, they do this thing, I think it's called the Frogman Challenge, and it's basically like CrossFit workouts, but it's in the water. And these workouts fucking crush people because they are not ready for the water. Like, they're just, especially when you start becoming a little bit hypoxic because you're out of oxygen from doing snatches or whatever, and then you jump in the water. It really crushes people. So, what is your approach? Like, when it comes to starting to program some swim workout, let's just start with a CrossFitter, somebody that's just working out. When you want to get them better at swimming, what does that approach look like?
First of all, I know what you're talking about, because the biggest thing for people that I've realized is the whole panic thing in the water. Just getting comfortable, just getting a little comfortable in the water is going to make the biggest difference, And I actually program quite a bit of hypoxic work to help people improve at that and kind of get over that. But
when you say hypoxic work, are you talking about underwater swims or?
Yeah, so sometimes I'll have, like, I don't know, it's 4 by 25 yards, we'll start there, and you got to go underwater. So some people have asked me what that is. That's, you could swim, so like froggy style, or you could kick, streamline position, however you want to, but your body should be submerged, fully submerged, and you're trying to reach the other end of the pool. Now, if you need to take a breath, come up, take a breath, and then go back down and try and get as far as you can go, right? So, I mean, when you start out with that, maybe you're only getting a couple yards at a time, and then slowly you'll see the improvement, and you'll be completing the 25 and still feeling pretty good, so that's the goal there. And then sometimes we'll do, I'll say zero to limited breaths for 25s or so. So it's normally in the finisher part of the workout. So then we'll go ahead and do swim. So swim at 25, no breath, and then 25 easy, rest, do the same. So that's kind of the hypoxic work we do on Swimdurance. So I was going to say, going back to with a beginner, just the yardage is lower and the distances are shorter. So we're going anywhere between a 25. I think the highest for a beginner is 200 yards.
At a time.
Yes, at a time. Yeah. So, and their total for their workout would be anywhere between 800 to 1,200 yards total. And then that changes as you step up to intermediate and then advanced. But that's a good start for people to get going.
And so if we look at CrossFitters, one of the things that they tend to do is they'll stack a strength program with an endurance program, with maybe some other program, because, rightfully so, CrossFitters have so many different disciplines that they have to work on. But a lot of times what you find is when you stack too many programs, it becomes counterintuitive to each other, right? And you start like not getting the best bang for your buck because they're kind of working against each other. And when it comes to programming swimming in a workout, I'm just curious, do you kind of have the green light to program as much swimming as you want because it's kind of non-impact, or do you still, how do you integrate it?
That's actually a good question. I stick with my yardage typically for each grouping, and then I figured that it's great. It's a great active recovery day, right? So if you're just using swimming as a, get away from the gym, get your endurance in, so you're still getting, see, that's going to be a lot harder for someone who's less efficient in the water. So if, you had two people doing the same program, one person might be dead tired at the end and the other person, feeling pretty good. So, and that's the thing with the density we spoke about earlier. That's where that could come into play. And then having some type of instruction in the water, because I do this online programming, I don't get to see any of my members in the water. So, I don't know what their swimming background is or how they swim. So this is intended for people who can at least swim freestyle, swim the stroke freestyle. And then the rest is up to them. So how they want to integrate that in their week or what they're getting out of it,
Yeah, so one of the things I started doing if I'm doing a strength program is I will try to swim on the days that I do something like a deadlift, something that's very central nervous system demanding, because then I can't run that day. Like if your CNS is shot, there's a lot of things you can't do. But swimming seems to be one of the things you can really get away with doing, really, no matter how fatigued you are.
Yes, that's a great idea. Your CNS takes longer to recover, so why not then throw in a swim that's not going to tax that system, and you're still getting fitter at the same time.
Right. Yeah. So one of the things you hit on was the fact that Swimdurance is an online program. Now, now I think I'm probably better, but let's say maybe like 6 months ago or 6 years ago, you could have programmed, now that's still not a good reference, 20 years ago, you could have programmed however many swims for me, but even though I could technically swim freestyle, my stroke was such garbage, like I just don't know how much better I would really get. And so for people that don't come from a swimming background, what is your advice for them to kind of like get better? Because swimming really is a lot of technique.
Yes, it is a lot of technique, and that's like the biggest thing I had to work with these guys, Rich and the gang in Cookville with, was fixing their head position, showing them how to kick properly, because those are two of the biggest things that help better in the water. So that would be the challenge of having an online program. But I actually have a member who contacted me before he started, and he got a coach to help him, just some lessons, just to get the basics down in the pool. And once he felt comfortable with his stroke, he signed up for Swimdurance. And he actually just mentioned me the other day and said how he swam 1,000 for time, and he still felt pretty good after. And, that's exciting. So, I think people could go that route, get some instruction, and then get on the program. Otherwise, it's going to be challenging no matter how much you do it,
So like if you look at YouTube and stuff like that, there is a lot of technique videos on there. Do you think it's something where to get better, you really have to have a coach who can be there with you, or do you think that's possible too?
I've put a few technique videos for like kicking and certain drills on there on my blog. And I think that is definitely helpful, seeing something. But then at the same time, I think you need to be videoing yourself. Maybe you get a friend, or, you set up a camera and you actually video yourself doing a 25 swim or a kick, and then kind of look at that from a, an outside perspective, compare it to videos online, and then go from there. Listen to some tips online, because there's a lot of good information out there on swimming.
Yeah, and I've looked at a lot of those, and it's like a lot of times they'll give you cues, like there's some tennis ball drills. You can keep a tennis ball tucked in your chin. Because it seems like what a lot of people do is, because they're not comfortable, they want to just pick their head up, which drops their hips, and they just end up in this weird position. But unless you have somebody telling you you're doing it and like trying to show, or if you can record yourself, that's another way, like a GoPro or something.
Yes, exactly. And then, and that's the biggest thing I see really is the head lift, the open water style lift, and then the hips are dropping, and then you're not getting anywhere. So I actually do like a drill where you do a couple bobs in the pool just to practice exhaling in the water versus turning your head, breathing out, trying to breathe in all at the same time while your arms are coming over your head. Like it's just craziness. So, and that's the whole panic thing where people think they can't breathe, so once you get comfortable with just exhaling in the water, breathing in once, out of the water, you transfer that into a stroke, some drills for that, and then eventually that gets better. So I haven't used the tennis ball thing before, though.
Yeah, I had such a problem with that. I saw that drill online, and basically, like, if you hold a tennis ball from your chin to your chest, and you just keep it there as you swim, it essentially keeps your head in line, so it'll keep your hips up. Yeah. Like if you try to reach up, the tennis ball will fall out. So just gives you.
So you actually tried that?
Yeah, I had to do it a lot. I'm a terrible swimmer.
That's awesome.
Yeah, no, I mean, I got interested in swimming for triathlon at first. And you're not going to win a triathlon based on your swim, but you can certainly lose one.
Yes, yeah, definitely. And I mean, I've had people tell me, you need to do triathlons. You should be really good because you're a good swimmer. And I'm like, okay, guys, but let's remember the swim is the first leg of this race. Then I still have to get on a bike, and then I have to finish with a run, which I don't consider myself a runner at all. But I'm actually trying to train for my first half marathon. I know that's like nothing to you who does ultra right now, but this is a big challenge for me. So take a swimmer, put them on the land, and let's see what happens.
Right. Well, you're a CrossFitter too, and a half marathon for a CrossFitter is a real thing too, because you really don't ever run more than a 5K in CrossFit ever.
Yeah, exactly. It's all like 200 in between something else, so it's going to be interesting.
I like that, though. I mean, I feel like everybody, people tell me that. They're like, oh, well, you run ultra, so this isn't crazy for you. And I'm like, dude, I remember my first half marathon. That thing sucked. It sucked really bad.
That's what everyone's telling me. I'm like, well, at least I'll be prepared,
Yeah, God, I just remember afterward, it felt like somebody replaced my calves with, like, metal poles. Like, they just would not move.
Great, thanks.
Yeah, so you have a lot to look forward to.
Oh.
So if we look at the Swimdurance program, how does that work?
Okay, so when someone signs up, they'll either choose their level. So there's a few tells you the basics about each level. And then I've actually just recently posted some example workouts for each of my levels on Instagram, Swimdurance _ so people can kind of get a look. Because I've had a lot of questions about sending them examples before people sign up. So
yeah.
So, and then from there, they just select the program they want. They'll sign up, and it's pretty simple. As soon as they sign up, they'll have access to 2 workouts a week. They can do them obviously whenever they like, and the workouts are uploaded every Monday at 12 a.m. And then you can see, I think, 2 weeks on the sheet. Once you bring it up online, you can see a total of 2 weeks. And then you just get to it. And then if you have questions and stuff, my members email me. So
is it like coaching support as well?
Yes, I mean, I'm obviously I have a small enough amount of swimmers that I can, stay in touch with them and communicate with them. So I love it when my members reach out and let me know how they're doing or how it's going or wow, I'm improving. Like that's the best type of email to get. And then just general questions about things too. So, but I don't really get too many of those. I try and explain as much as I can online.
Okay. And so if the people that listen to this show, we definitely have a very diverse background because, well, I have ADD and I jump around a lot. So the people I interview come from a diverse background. But if you're looking at getting your program and you're a triathlete or a CrossFitter, how do you approach that? Are you getting the same program or how do you approach that?
Yes. As of now, it's just one program for each level. So, typically I have spitters, and then I have a few triathletes that I think, I don't know at what level they are. From what I understand from some of them, they are just beginners trying to get their swimming better. So the program they're on is best for them. But I don't have any elite triathletes that know how to swim and probably swim a lot more mileage than what I offer each week. So eventually maybe I can do some personal, online programming for those looking for something a little more challenging or advanced, because all of the programming I have done has been based off of what I've seen with Rich and the rest of those CrossFit athletes over the 2.5 years that I was with them. So just working with them, because it's kind of hard coming from a collegiate swimming background, right? I know what I can do in the pool.
Right, you don't want to kill someone.
Yes, which I did a few times with those guys, right?
Right.
Yeah, so working with them really helped me kind of get a understanding of where, a typical non-swimmer athlete would be in the water. So I pretty much program my advanced program first, because that is what those guys eventually got up to. So all my intervals and times or rest periods are based off what I experienced with them. And then as I program down for my intermediate and my beginner, I just adapt those distances and times accordingly off of the advanced. So it would be an easy transition from beginner to advanced, from intermediate to advanced, as the athletes improve in their stage.
Okay. And so when we look at the third level advanced, we talked a little bit about the beginner. How much mileage or kilometers, what does the volume look like in that program?
They are typically around 2,000 yards a workout, 2 workouts, and then they go anywhere from 25 yard to a 500 yard total.
Okay, three workouts a week?
They get 2 as well.
Okay, 2.
Yeah, everyone's on 2. And then what I have done for each level is they kind of have a testing, if you want to call it a test, time trial. So with the beginners, they have a 200 time trial. The intermediates have a 300 yard, and then the advanced have a 500 yard. So, periodically throughout the training, I'll throw in a 500 for time compared to your last times, just so they can see, for themselves how far they've come, how they're doing, where they at in the programming.
Yeah. So one of the things you mentioned right there that I really like that I think is the hallmark of a really good coach is when the coach can divorce their own training techniques from the people that they're training. Because even as a coach myself, I find sometimes whatever I'm really into at the time starts to influence my training, when it's really you need to take a step back and look at that applied to many different subjects before you can say whether it's something that you should experiment with or not. So the fact that you had that experience, I think, is huge.
Yeah, and that's a big thing in my coaching career too. I compete now in CrossFit, but I need to make sure I'm adapting my workouts for my athletes in that strength conditioning field, making that appropriate for them. And, sometimes and on the reverse side, you learn things yourself about, I mean, I'm always trying to learn and find new ways to do things. So picking up stuff myself, feeling how they feel, walking the walk, and then, providing that information to athletes is, that's part of that as well.
Right. Yeah, that's huge. Okay, so the final question is the Lionheart Kicker, and we ask every guest, and you can base this off your entire experience as a human being. So you can base it off swimming if you'd like, or based off anything. And I should have told you about this before the show. I totally forgot. That's my bad. So I have to put you on the spot right now. But if you could give advice and it were guaranteed that everybody in the world would hear it, what would you tell people?
Man.
I know, way too much. I always tell them beforehand so people can start thinking about it, and I totally forgot with you.
Well, I'm going to say so related to swimming, since that's what we're talking about, learn how to swim. Like, teach your kids how to swim, even if it's not, for a lifetime into college and to swim at the Olympics. But I think it's important that everyone just gets some lessons when they're young and knows how to swim, survive in the water.
I completely agree. That is a skill humans should have. And every time I talk to an adult that doesn't know how to swim, it weirds me out because I'm like, why? Why didn't your parents teach you? But it's a real thing. I agree with you. That's an adult skill you should have.
It's a real thing, yeah. And then, other than that, just enjoy life. Like, live life the way you want to. Do the things you love and be great at it,
Yeah. Can I press you on that a little bit? When you start doing... what do you mean by that? Do you mean as a career, as a hobby? Like, what does that mean, do the things you love? I feel like that's too general.
I know, and that's true. But, like recently, it's summer now, right? So we're outside, and we just took a trip to Colorado, and I was, like, blown away. Like, people just outside running, biking, and, that's the type of lifestyle I'm about. I love, know. And so, good thing I don't work an office job, because then I would hate my life. I work in fitness, which I'm passionate about. I get to help young students, which I'm passionate about. So life every day isn't work for me. I get to be in what I love and do what I love every day. And I think people need to do that in their lives. Find something that you enjoy and make it your career, make it your life, versus just going day to day just because for the paycheck, for example. It's not worth it.
I completely agree. Thanks for joining me today. I really appreciate you taking the time.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.
Perfect. Thanks, guys. Thanks for listening to Lionheart Radio. I hope that the information from today's show will make you fitter, happier, and healthier. For the show notes of this episode and every episode, head to www.lionheartrad.io. Yep, just like Lionheart Radio. And please, if you have the time, head over to iTunes and give us a 5-star rating. It really helps us to know that we're on the right track in delivering you reliable information and value. As always, feedback is welcomed. If you have any comments on the show or would like to suggest a guest, send me an email at rick@luavive.com. That's LUAVIVE.com. Thanks for your support, and we will see you next time.
Bitch, I feel good. Don't I look stupendous? My shine is so endless, and shit you can do to end this. Even when I'm dead, niggas still gon' bump that chip shit. Coke, white, Escalade on cinches for you dipshit. So you won't forget this. Midwest nigga be the coldest. Cleveland.